Could the Mariners have the best outfield in baseball? We'll answer that and more coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Monday, March 10th, 2025. This is Titan Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And as always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, you can check out our Patreon. All you have to do to check that out is click the link in the description of this episode. As we do here every Monday, it's time to open up the mailbag and answer some of your Mariners questions. And we're going to start with Alex, who wants to know, could the Mariners end with the best outfield in baseball? Fangraphs has them tied fifth. I think all these guys have huge upside, or all three guys rather have huge upside. Now, Alex also in his question included a screenshot of a table that listed all the outfielder or projected starting outfielders in baseball and their projected WAR. But that table, I didn't put that table in this episode for a couple of reasons. One, because it was too large to just fit on the screen, and two, there were some pretty glaring omissions when I looked at that list. Specifically, when you get to the A's portion of it, where it has Brent Rooker listed as part of the outfield for the A's, but not Lawrence Butler. So unless I'm missing something, seems like that list isn't super accurate.
No. Rooker, I believe, by the way, played exactly 0 innings in the outfield last year. I could be mistaken there, but I know he didn't play a lot out
He
there.
might have played some, but yeah, he was primarily their DH.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Could
and Lawrence Butler was awesome and just signed an extension. Like, yeah, he's going to be part of their outfield this year.
Right. So, like, could the Mariners have the best outfield in baseball by the end of the year? I mean, like, I guess it's within the range of outcome, but like, I think the problem you run into is that other teams have like that carrying guy, right? Like, who knows how good the other Yankees outfielders are going to be, but because Aaron Judge is there and Judge has put up 8, 9, 10 win seasons, kind of a lot, he's going to carry a lot of that. So we're just looking like which outfield trio is going to have the most cumulative WAR. Then guys like, Judge and guys like Soto and guys like Tucker, who have been these, big, accumulators of WAR, they're probably going to tip the scales a little too much for the Mariners to catch up with. And it's not that Julio can't be an 8, 9 win player. He certainly can do that physically. He's just never done it before. And so it's kind of dumb almost to bank on it.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, who would you bet on to have an MVP caliber year this year? Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Kyle Tucker, etc., or Julio? I think the answer is pretty clear. It's Juan Soto, it's Aaron Judge, it's Kyle Tucker.
At
those
even
guys.
Money, sure.
But
if you go check on, who's our title sponsor today? Is it FanDuel?
FanDuel.
If you go check on FanDuel, maybe the odds for Julio are ones that you like. Because I think it's a good year to bet on Julio. # not gambling advice. Yeah. I mean, if it's just straight up, like, who's more likely to win an MVP this year? It's those guys over Julio, certainly. So if you're talking about like which trio will have like maybe not the highest cumulative WAR, but like which individual trio will each player have a higher WAR? You know what I mean? Like if it's just kind of a 1 through 3 instead of just one, and then the other 2 guys kind of tag along, then maybe Seattle can be near the top. The Mariners outfield, I think, is going to be good. Like, it's going to be really good.
It's going to be good. If you want to look at it in a similar light to the way that we look at the Mariners rotation, where we just talk about like how quality it is 1 through 5. So with the outfield, it would be 1 through 3 in this case. Like looking at each individual player, like they're all really good players, right? So yeah, like from that standpoint, like, yeah, they're probably a top 5 unit in baseball. But in terms of like just cumulative WAR, I like the Mets a lot better because Soto is just going to produce at a star level, and Jose Siri is going to give them a ton of value defensively, and he's going to hit some homers, and Brandon Nemo's still a really good player. And, the Yankees, They have Judge, right? And they have Bellinger, the Cubs, another one. Now that they have Kyle Tucker with Ian Happ and PCA, like I think those guys are going to be up there in terms of the WAR. Yeah, I just see a clear path for some of these other teams to have a higher cumulative WAR than the Mariners. But again, if we were just looking at like quality of player, spot to spot to spot, yeah, the Mariners are definitely up there.
Yeah, I mean, like, could Julio have an 8-win season and Randy have like a 4-win season and Robles have a 4-win season? And you're like, oh wow, that's really good. That still might not even be enough to outpace Soto and his friends and Judge and his friends out there. But yeah, the Mariners outfield is definitely a strength of this team. So is it best in baseball? No. Is there a chance it ends the year as the best in baseball? Yeah, I mean, there's a chance. I think it's highly, highly unlikely, though.
Juju wants to know, who do you think could take over Colt Emerson at the number 1 spot in the Mariners farm system? You have to choose someone.
If they draft Arnold with their pick, right, then he's probably the number 1. If they draft Arquette with their pick, he's probably the new number 1 in this system. I don't think anybody can do it this year, but if I have to pick somebody, I'll take Feldman.
Yeah, I think Feldman's the only dude that could do that. Plus, like, let's keep in mind here that there's a pretty small window here for someone to do this, because I think Emerson is going to make his debut and possibly eventually graduate here in the next 18-ish months.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if it's someone in the organization, then Feldman's my pick, or whoever they draft at number 3. I think there's a pretty good shot that they're going to be a higher rated prospect than Emerson.
I think Arnold and
unless they go under slot. If they go under slot, then
I think not. Only Arnold and Arquette are the only two I would put over Emerson. But things can change. I don't know. We're barely.
Bremner?
No, I think I'd still have Emerson ahead of Bremner. But yeah, I mean, like I said, things can change. We're only about a month into the college season. We still have another 2-3 months to go there. So certainly things can change there. But yeah, in the org right now, Feldman has the highest upside of anybody, any of the prospects. And he's also the closest to Emerson in our prospect ranks right now. So that kind of seems like the only reasonable answer here is that Feldman, if he has a big year and maybe he gets to, Everett this year and he's playing well, then he can surpass Emerson, because then he won't be all that far behind him either. So even the ETA doesn't matter at that stage. So
if he stays healthy and he's crushing it in Modesto and he makes it to Everett, then I think at that point we're going to have a real conversation about who the number 1 is. All right, we are going to answer more of your questions here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is once again brought to you by FanDuel. All right, folks, it's that time of year again. March Madness is finally here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. That's FanDuel.com. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Mailbag Monday. Let's get back into your questions. Campbell wants to know, what's your opinion on Samad Taylor? I think he would offer way more to the team this year than Mitch Haniger.
Haniger, not exactly having a great spring. Hasn't played a lot either, by the way, which is mildly interesting. But yeah, I mean, like, look, I think we agree that Haniger is going to make this team, whether he deserves to or not. And based off what he did last year and what he did the year before, and just kind of the limited value he brings you, if he's not hitting, which is no value if he's not hitting, he shouldn't be on the roster. And Taylor can at least play the outfield, play some defense. He has a lot of experience, playing second base. So he can also do that if you need him to. And he can steal bags. I think he had 50 stolen bases last year in AAA. He didn't hit in the PCL, though, and that's a concern. So, and by the way, Taylor was really good last spring as well. So him being good this spring doesn't tell you anything. Yeah. So, yeah, I do think I would rather have Taylor on my bench than Haniger. But I think Haniger is going to be on it. I think, we've accepted that. and he'll probably get a couple opportunities early. And if you can get any kind of, offensive surge from Haniger, even if it's only for a couple weeks, then, you'll have gotten more out of him this year than I thought you could. So I think they're going to roll with it, and you give it a month. And the nice thing about Taylor is he's not on your 40 man. You can call him up whenever you want. He's going to be down there in Tacoma. And if he hits like he did not do last year, like, let's be honest, last year there was literally no reason for the Mariners to ever call up Samad Taylor because he was bad in AAA.
Yeah.
So I think he's got to go down there. I think he's got to hit this year in AAA before he gets a call up. I'm not going to hand him a 40-man spot and an opening day roster spot because of a good spring. He didn't earn it last year, so he has to earn it this year. So while I would rather have Taylor than Haniger in a vacuum, I'm not upset that the Mariners would just be like, well, we'll just give Haniger a shot here.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I do want there to be some more speed, some defense off the bench, maybe even a left-handed power bat, which kind of eliminates a couple of people when you factor in the speed and all that too. So I do think there are better options than Haniger to have on the bench. I understand why the Mariners would be like, Taylor, he's not an option right now. Let's see what happens.
All right. John Stanton's burner. Yikes. Never going to get over that, even though we've answered a few of your questions on here. On your typical 20/80 grade scale, what are the chances of Rowdy Tellez impacting this roster on opening day? If not, then what are the chances he impacts the roster midseason, kind of like Mike Ford in 2023? Right now, I'd put it at a 20 because if Mitch Haniger is on this roster, you're talking about having Donovan Solano, Mitch Garver, Mitch Haniger, and Rowdy Tellez all on the same roster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And probably only one of those guys in the starting lineup every day, which means at any given time, your bench is going to have 3 of those guys on it. And, in terms of a bench role, they're all kind of the same guy.
Yeah. Now, we haven't seen Luke Raley play at first in a while. Who knows if that's actually a thing, but he's in the outfield again today.
Blah, 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 blah.
If they let's just say for a second, like they have given up on that. Like, yeah, I guess Donovan Solano would be your first baseman, but also he's been playing a lot of third, and you probably need him to play at least some third. So then what do you do at first base?
You just put Raley there then.
What if they don't think that he can play first? I haven't heard great things. To be fair, I have not heard good things about Luke Raley at first base.
I don't think that's a thing. I refused. Like, the Mariners don't care about first base defense. And like, what are you going to put Randy Arozarena as your everyday DH? Like, fine. Okay. Then yeah, put Raley in left field. But A, I don't think Randy's going to love that. And B, like, you live with it, because if the alternative is a Rowdy Tellez, Donovan Solano, like, first base thing, and Raley
that's
has
the only
to
way to me that it works. If like, and as things are currently constructed.
And Raley's just DHing, you're wasting Raley's athleticism on the DH so that you can roll Rowdy Tellez out there. Like, what are we doing, man? Like, no. I would say now, because I can't underestimate the Mariners, I'm trying really hard not to do that. I'd say this is a really bad thing to use a 20/80 scale on, by the way.
Yeah.
I would say there's like a 30, I guess, that he's on the opening day roster, and him impacting, like, I don't know. He was really bad the second half of last year. Pretty good the first half, though. And I think Tellez is the guy you want him to stick around. You want him in Tacoma just in case something happens to one of these guys. But I feel like you're just trying to force in a puzzle piece that doesn't fit. And you're just not being patient enough and looking at the big picture and being like, oh, this is the piece I actually need. It doesn't fit, man. Like, Tellez gives you nothing defensively, nothing on the bases, and probably, just based on what he did last year, nothing at the plate.
Yeah.
I know he's having a good spring, but again, who cares? Yeah. So no, Tellez doesn't make any sense to me to be on the opening day roster so long as Mitch Haniger is here. Yeah. And so if they move on from Haniger, or if, I don't know, I mean, that's pretty much it. Because even if Garver gets hurt, you're going to call up a catcher. That's not Tellez. So, to me, Haniger and Tellez can't coexist on this roster.
The only way that I could see him on the roster again is if they have given up on the Luke Raley first base thing. That's the only way that I can see it. And even then, Mitch Haniger is still a massive roadblock.
Because then you still have basically three guys who should pretty much only DH in Garver, Haniger, and Tellez.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't make sense. Like, the Mariners really like their roster flexibility. This is why they've not gone after full-time DHs, right? At least that's what they say. Sure, it has nothing to do with the money. So, like, why would you then just build a team? What do we, Jack Zarinzik? We going back to that model? Like, no, it just doesn't work. Tellez, cool story. I hope he sticks around in AAA because, yeah, he could be a Mike Ford, middle of the season, bring some impact. Yeah, he could do that. But on the opening day roster, while Haniger is still here, no. Even if you don't think Raley can play first base, and I think that would be moronic of the Mariners, you need Raley's bat in the lineup. Figure it out, live with it, deal with it.
Yeah.
So
it's just too many unathletic relative to the rest of the league bodies on the roster.
I mean, I don't even know. You need that qualifier with Rowdy Tellez, but yeah.
You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Got a couple more questions to go over here on Mailbag Monday. Spencer wants to know, with Francisco Alvarez, Frankie Montas, and Sean Manaea injuries for the Mets, would a Luis Castillo and Harry Ford for Mark Vientos package or a challenge trade of Ford for Jet Williams make more sense? Kirby injury obviously complicates things, but M seems to think he'll be fine. So a couple things on this, first and foremost.
Was Fan Fiction Friday?
Well, yeah, but also, one that would come down to, do the Mets actually think that Harry Ford is ready to be some sort of viable option to fill in for Francisco Alvarez? And two, no, the Mariners aren't trading Luis Castillo, especially now with the George Kirby news. They're not. It's not happening. No. Same thing applies to the Yankees situation now that Garrett Cole's done.
No. They're seeking a second opinion, but
seems like he's going to be done. Yeah.
As for the challenge trade thing, I don't think Jet Williams makes a lot of sense for the Mariners. They have Cole Young, they have Fellman, they have Emerson, like they have Williams. Like, they've got infield options, and Williams has been terrible in the Mets development system. And Ford, at the very least, is a viable backup catcher defensively with athleticism, and he's actually produced some, whereas Jet Williams has not. So I don't think that's a very good trade. To me, I don't think that's a good challenge trade. So it's just, I don't think the Mets are going to let being without Alvarez for the month of April dictate them trading for Harry Ford, because Harry Ford's probably not going to be ready in the month of April. And by the way, good for Harry. He's having a great spring. He's driving the ball more now. He hasn't struck out yet. Like, it looks like awesome. It looks like he's starting to tap into that raw power that we all knew is there. He's a strong
That homer
kid.
Against the Cubs was really impressive.
He's a very strong kid. He's got bat speed. He's very athletic. It's always been there. And now if he's starting to tap into it, do you want to jump ship right now for Jet Williams, a guy who's probably, I don't know,
because if Harry proves like he can hit for power down in the minors, probably won't be that long until we see him at the big league level, and they'll find a spot for him.
Well, I mean, either with the Mariners or with another team.
Yeah,
like Ford is going to carry more trade value to you than Jet Williams is as well. So, like, Williams, to me, based on what I know right now about him, not a top 10 prospect in the Mariners system. So it just, and he's further away from the big leagues. So I don't see it. I don't think it makes sense. And I don't think that the Mets are going to panic and trade their starting third baseman for Castillo. And then it's like, oh, cool. Emerson Hancock and Logan Evans in the rotation. For how long? Who knows? So I don't think it makes sense for the Mariners. I don't think it makes sense for the Mets. It's far too reactionary this early in the year. We were in July and, this happened and all of a sudden Ford's having a pretty good year in AAA or whatever. And Senja is maybe like ahead of schedule, or Evans has continued to develop and it's Kirby's back healthy. Like in July, something like this might make sense, although unlikely.
No.
But,
Yeah. I mean, if
right
Ford
now,
continues to do what he's doing this spring into the minor league season, that's someone that I'm calling up as soon as I get enough of a sample size. That's someone I think can really help this ball club.
Right. And I don't think we're saying like he has to hit 500,
No.
and slug 800. Because
No,
obviously, again,
but
spring training stats don't matter.
I'm talking
But-
about the process of what he's doing,
Right.
not the
when you
not the
watch
numbers.
him, he
Yeah.
looks better.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he's the home run he hit was a pitch that was off the strike zone. And we've talked about Harry Ford should swing more. He should walk less because he's a good hitter. He's got bat speed. He can do damage on some of these pitches that he's taking. And so again, if he's added a little bit of strength, if he's kind of tweaked his approach a little bit, then Ford is still a guy, even though he's slid down the ranks the last couple of years. He is still a guy who could impact a major league roster in a pretty big way right away. By the way, he stole like 30 bags last year on top of all that. So speed, defensive versatility. If he's got power, if he's got a hit tool now, because he's going to be a little more aggressive at the plate, we'll see what he does at AAA. It's going to be a challenge for him. But if we see this kind of new approach, this new version of Harry Ford in AAA for 6 to 8 weeks, he might be your call up. He might beat Harry Ford. He might beat Cole Young to the big leagues. So I doubt it, but he might. And so, it's a big year for Harry Ford. I wouldn't trade him right now for another prospect. It doesn't make sense to me. So
Agreed.
I'm out on all of this.
Max wants to know, has Bliss's odds to be the starting second baseman on opening day gotten better after this week? I know it's only spring training, but yikes, Dylan looks horrible. What do you mean? He got his first hit finally the other day. Now he's a whopping 1 for 22.
Has Bliss helped himself? Or has Dylan hurt himself?
I think it's more Bliss has helped himself than Dylan has hurt himself, for sure.
Sure.
You know what you're getting out of Dylan Moore. Nothing that he does this spring is going to change. Yeah. Yeah, like he'll go 1 for 22, and then he'll be red hot for a week, and then he'll be, 3 for his last 30, and then he'll get hot for another week or two.
14 for 22, and just like, geez. So, it is interesting that the Mariners have kind of openly discussed about like how much they want Dylan Moore to go back to the role that he's played for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Even like very early on in the spring. And so for a team that's like, this is our second baseman this year, and then kind of like immediately like, boy, we sure would like it if we could use Dylan at multiple positions. It's like, well, what's stopping you? You could have just signed Jose Iglesias for nothing, right? So it's just one of those things where it's like just do it. Like if you want Dylan Moore to be your utility guy again, nothing is stopping you.
Yeah, like I said last week, just give Ryan Bliss the keys and see what happens at this point.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah. He's looked really good this spring. He has he had another single today and a stolen base. He looks really good. I would just give him the keys and let Dylan be the primary utility guy, and he's still going to get a lot of run at second base, like we've talked about. He can also help over at third if Jorge Polanco is not able to handle a ton of workload over there. And that also allows you to play, Donovan Solano at first base a bit more if you actually don't want Luke Raley to play there much. So
you don't have to carry an extra shortstop, which again, they might not anyways. We've talked about this. Now they don't need to carry an extra shortstop. They just move more to short and, Bliss back at second, blah, blah, blah. But do you want Bliss on the bench that often? Or are you going to call Rivas to be on the bench because Rivas doesn't have anything left and you think Bliss might have a little something left? So it's interesting. I think the best, utilization of the roster spots would be that Ryan Bliss be the starting second baseman and, primary starting. Like, look, he's going to sit on the bench sometimes and you're going to use Demo there and all that. So it's not like it's not like Bliss is going to play 162 games. Right. But I think
you're going to play matchups and all that stuff.
Right. I think he should primarily in a neutral matchup. You should give the opportunity to Bliss because he might still prove himself to be an everyday player. And I think at this stage, Dylan Moore has proven that he's not going to be one, not for the Mariners, at least. So, it's just weird to me that like the organization has like openly talked about like, we really want to get Dylan Moore back into the utility role. And that's where he's best at. It's like, then just do it. I don't understand why they won't just say that that's what they're going to do and give Bliss the job at second base. Like, I think it's totally believable, like sellable to the fan base. Bliss was pretty good for you last year in a very limited sample size. He's been really good this spring. I think most fans would be like, cool, that like Dylan struggled. So I don't think you're going to get any pushback from the fans if you're just like, yeah, Ryan Bliss is going to be the opening day second baseman or the primary second base. I mean, you can still get Demo to start on opening day if you want. I don't care. But yeah, I do think that both of these guys should be on the roster. And the best way to facilitate that is that Bliss plays most of the time at second base and Demo is allowed then to play the outfield, shortstop, second, third, and just kind of rotate in. So I think that's the best formation you could do. And obviously Bliss having a good spring, while Dylan hasn't had a very good spring, maybe it's enough to kind of like, help the Mariners make the right decision. But I think it's more Bliss helping himself. I don't think the Mariners are super panicked about Dylan Moore.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. And thank you for all of your questions. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.